various workplaces. So initiative is a very important law if you are going to be successful. And I'm talking more about organizations, I'm talking more about corporations, and I'm talking more about groups. But it can also be applied to the personal, individual context. It's equally applicable. Because every concept of success begins when somebody starts something. When you look at it, we're here today because someone had to initiate an idea. If it succeeds, its origins began from just that sense of initiative. So wherever there is no initiative, there can be no progress. In any society, in any space, there can be no progress. There can equally be no innovation. There can be no advancement. And that's why societies that do well have an investment in a culture of initiating things. Those societies reward those who initiate things. Those societies do not reward those who inherit things. No. They don't reward inheritors, they reward initiators. The Mark Zuckerbergs of this world, the Bill Gates of this world, you can go on and on. Someone saw a problem, didn't wait to complain about the problem, to just watch it. They took steps. They asked, what if? They asked, why not? That's what they did. And that's what truly made a difference. And so they get heavily rewarded. They set up enterprises in those kind of systems. Before you know it, they attract investors, they attract funding. Before you know it, it grows. Before you know it, they are going for an IPO. And by the time we all wake up, 5 years, 10 years down the line, they become multi-billionaires. They become stars, heroes. Why? They were initiators. They didn't watch, they didn't wonder. They worked towards it. That's the difference. And so there can be no progress, there can be no innovation, there can be no advancement without the initiative imperative. So when we ask people to use their initiative at work, which is essentially to take ownership of whatever space you find yourself in, lead yourself, ask what can I do better, engage, present yourself to serve, to produce. When you do all of this, you are adding to that foundation that guarantees progress. You are adding to that foundation that will produce the success that becomes even more sustainable. That's what you're doing. And ensuring that we can continue to innovate, finding solutions to existing challenges. That's what this is about. And most importantly, for those of us who believe we need to be relevant, most importantly, is this. It allows you to truly be relevant in any space. Because when people know that no matter how difficult or challenging it might be, you will find a way, then you become a guarantor of success and a necessity or an ingredient of necessity in that space. Because people who use their initiative are never satisfied with the status quo. In any environment, in any space, they are never satisfied. They are restless. In the status quo environment, they are restless. So what are some of the practical expressions? We are talking about initiative imperative. What does it look like? How would you recognize it? To know that someone is not an apathetic, is not a sympathetic. Rather, this person is an energetic. How can we recognize them in our respective spaces of work, or business, of operation, or even relationships? As I've said, the more of the apathetics and sympathetics you have in your life, the less progress you will make. It's as simple as that. Do the math. And if you run a company or you lead a team and you are heavily populated by the Sidon Looks and the Lookmans and the Eyao, I'm talking about those who are pathetic and sympathetic. For our global audience who might be wondering what language is he speaking, that's the Nigerian language you're speaking. If you have a significant chunk of the people in your team, in your space, in these two classes, then you have a big problem. That company, that business will never be productive. Over the long haul. Will never be successful. Over the long haul. At best, it will only be average, and it will leave you as the chief executive or the team lead to remain perpetually in crisis mode, in lift mode, constantly trying to lift as though you're trying to push people or push things uphill. Again, I use the wheelbarrow expression or the wheelbarrow metaphor. Can only be pushed because it has no self-starting dynamic architecture within itself. So an external force, according to Isaac Newton, that any system or object remains in a neutral state until an external force is applied to it. So at the end of the day, what you get is not more than neutrality and possibly negativity in your organization, in your system, when you are heavily populated by apathetics and sympathetics. Lacking neutrality. And that neutrality eventually morphs into negativity, because once you have so many watchers and wanderers, you know the next contribution they will eventually provide you. That's what leads to a lot of rumor mills. A lot of conversations about people. You work in a place and most of what you discuss are other people, your colleagues. So many small minds in the system. Small minds discuss people. Average minds discuss events. But great minds discuss ideas. That's what you eventually get in that space. So what are the practical ways? What can we observe so that we know what the initiative imperative looks like? In that way, you can also gauge yourself, examine yourself as to where you belong. Well, there are certain simple behavioral patterns we can look for, we can expect to see and say, yes, this is real. For instance, you can always offer to help without being asked. Whenever you find a colleague always eager and offers to help without being asked, please don't be too quick to conclude that they are meddlesome interlopers. Because most times we shut those kinds of people down. What's your business? Did I ask you? Is it your job description? What you want to do is check for that trait. Are they always eager and willing to offer their support even without asking? That is a strong indicator of an energetic, the deployment of the initiative imperative. Yes, it is. Then you find someone like that. Do not quench their flame. Do not. Do not snuff the life out of such people. Don't become the discourager in chief. Don't be quick. Don't be too soon to write off or throw a wet blanket over them. But check. It could be an indication or an indicator of that initiative imperative. Another way we can recognize this quality, and very good leaders, very good team leads, very good bosses stay alert to sense these qualities, and they hire or assign people within their systems to certain tasks. Another one is you can take on work beyond your job description, making yourself available, taking on greater ownership, because initiative is essentially the principle of owning your work. And when you own something, it becomes very personal. That's what it means. It's taking ownership, increased, greater sense of ownership. And when you take ownership over a task, over an idea, what happens? You immediately become concerned and committed to its success, regardless of the challenges. You become invested in its outcome. And we all know that anytime we invest in a project, we watch over the project to ensure that we get the required returns. That's what this is telling us. Especially for those of us who may still be at the very early phases of our careers, of our businesses, of our pursuits. I strongly encourage you, as opportunities or challenges present themselves, be prepared, be willing, demonstrate it, show it. To take on work beyond your job description. Have that add-on mentality. It will signal to those who will make decisions regarding your future prospects in that organization, in that space, that you can be counted upon, that you truly belong in that special elite class of the energetics. That is where you belong. Another quality we can observe in people to point us in the direction that these are energetics is those who do what others avoid. The apathetics are the quintessential avoiders. Sit down, look, disconnect, detach. Don't get me involved. The sympathetics just feign involvement. They don't really mean it. Oh yes, we've got to do it. They show some concern as if yes, they are ready to be part of it, but they don't mean it. When push comes to shove, they will be marked absent. So you want to look out for people who typically are willing to take on tasks that others avoid. Excuse me. There are people, the avoiders, who essentially all they do throughout their careers is to what? Tiptoe throughout life. You know what it means to tiptoe around a problem? You just want to move around it. You've seen it. Rather than say, what can we do to fix it so that the pathway can be straight and clear for all to move? It's like there are booby traps. Let me walk through here. Avoid, there's a gutter here. Oh, there's a puddle of water there. Let me tiptoe around it. These are the people who are constantly managing their efforts. Under the guise of I'm just managing myself. No. Managing their effort, economizing their contributions. And let me not do so much, because if I do so much, they will think I'm available for overtime. I don't want to be caught in that trap. Budgeting their efforts, tiptoeing through their careers. They are not the energetics you are looking for. And as a leader, the moment you sense it in anyone, in your team, begin to make plans for their replacements or their redeployments to places where they do not and cannot constitute significant consequential effects on the work or to the business. Make those plans. Because when you have a significant population of these kinds of characters in any space, it toughens the quest. Simple things are achieved through arduous efforts, through great pain, through great efforts. We dissipate so much to get basic things done. That's not acceptable. That's because the initiative imperative has taken a back seat in such cultures. That's the problem. The file, one of the experiences I had in public service, was the movement of files. Once the file reaches a particular table, for some people, especially in the public service, it can take a long time. Sometimes you have to show up and say, I came up with this matter 3-4 weeks ago, and your presence becomes what triggers movement and action. You have to then mount guard. to drive it. Because initiative imperative is not a culture. And this is a major problem in bureaucracies, public services everywhere in the world. Because of bureaucratic bottlenecks. Okay, we're here, it stopped here, all right, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going home. And then we come back tomorrow, okay, this fellow hasn't come, it's all right, when they come, we'll look at it. But the initiative mind says, all right, we couldn't finish this yesterday, this is a pending issue, and this could actually have consequences for the person that submitted this request. Maybe they are there waiting for an outcome so that they can make a decision. Their next decision is dependent on the outcome that we produce. Most people in those systems don't think that way. So we then have a culture of so much motion without movement. So much activity without productivity. Why? The population of the energetics is small, minimal, compared to the combined weight of the apathetics and the sympathetics. That's the reason. That's the reason why the public system doesn't work as swiftly as is expected. That's the reason. Too many apathetics and sympathetics. Driven largely by attendance over performance. When you have more energetics, you will feel and see evidently the urgency. Someone is willing to take on that task that others are avoiding. Another important value you will observe when dealing with someone that has the initiative imperative is that these people follow through to completion. They don't just start and leave it when no one else is watching. No. It is what Brian Tracy calls the compulsion to closure. We started it, let's see it through. They follow through to completion. They're not waiting for something to come in and then trigger them. Okay, yes, oh, that's true, yes, we started it last week, yes. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Every time, no. It's on the menu consistently. It's on the menu consistently until it's done. Just follow through until completion. Nobody waits. In other words, when you find in any environment that there are so many irons in the fire, so many items on the agenda, with very few effectively concluded, then it is showing that the initiative quotient in that space is extremely, very minimal. It's low. In fact, only trace elements remain as far as the initiative imperative is concerned. That's why the mentality of closing out on tasks, on assignments, on projects is so important to people who use initiative, who seize the initiative to get things done. Enough of this wheelbarrow syndrome. Someone has to hover around you or hover around you. Someone has to breathe down your neck with a gun to your head. You are not trusted. You cannot be left alone with a task. You can't be left alone with a task because there is no trust that once we move away, they will go back to their default mode. And what is that default mode? Apathy and sympathy. That's where we get the expression that we refer to as eye service. Eye service. One of the things I observed in my public service years, everybody or most people would just switch off, be doing their own thing, couldn't be bothered. But the moment the chief executive or the senior person comes in, all of a sudden, everybody suddenly, instantly, begins to feign productivity, to feign efforts. Oh yes, ma, we are ready, yes sir, yes sir. I just wanted to bring to your attention, and you'll be wondering. But step out the boss, step out the lead figure, and virtually everybody returns to default mode. And that's where we hear the expression, I cannot come and kill myself. You see some of these maxims that we have created for ourselves as a people, we've got to watch it. I cannot come and kill myself, Joe. And you want progress. You want progress. How do you get progress? With so little to no initiative in your thinking. How? Progress, innovation, advancement comes because of the initiative imperative. That's how we get there. And so eye service becomes the order of the day, because many by their nature are apathetics or sympathetics. Only very few are energetic. In fact, in most of these systems, the apathetics and the sympathetics gang up to excoriate, to crucify the very few who are energetic. What is it? Are you the only one? I'm sure you're familiar with that expression. Are you the only one? See the way he's carrying the work as if it's his father's what? His father's property. Then there's the preaching one of you two they do. Over Sabi. These are the things that we see. And so if those few are not grounded in this particular performance doctrine, they become discouraged. And before you know it, they can begin to switch off. And you hear the expression, if you can't beat them, join them. And that's why the ranks of the apathetics and the sympathetics continues to swell daily. And then create a culture, a dank culture of stillness, where nothing moves, nothing is fresh again, no fresh idea, no inspiration. That ecosystem just stalls and begins to atrophy, gradually dying, wearing away. And we all get used to it. And we settle for mediocrity. We call it our status quo. And tomorrow we wonder why the rest of the world is moving and leaving us behind, moving ahead and leaving us behind. Check and ask yourself, how many people with initiative imperatives do I have in my ecosystem? How many are willing to follow through to completion? Okay, after all, we've tried. And that's what try. You tried. You are trying, no? You just meet someone doing what they are doing, which is just the basic minimum. And then all of a sudden we elevate the compliments. Think about it. This guy's trying. See, the word try is a very interesting word. And my view about that word changed when I read a quotation from one of the characters in Star Wars. That there is no try, there is only do. There is no try, there is only do. And that changed a lot of my thinking towards that word. How you are trying. No, do. Do. Ensure that you follow through to completion. Another very important marker in terms of observable traits of initiative, of the initiative imperative, is that these are the people that solve problems before escalation. They want to see, what can we do? A problem doesn't just come up and the first thing they think of is outside themselves. They at least interrogate the situation. Is there anything I can do? They explore on their own, and that's why this is such an important tenet in terms of how we think. The initiative imperative from within you internally, that engine from inside of you. Don't park your brains at the gate and then you walk in. Look at the shared population of the people that come into a space. Most brains parked at the gate. No. At least they explore the problem. They question it, they interrogate it before escalating it, so that when you escalate, you're not just carrying your raw problems to the place or the point of escalation, but you're showing up with one or two ideas. Initiative. When you're speaking to your boss about the situation, it is with some add-on, some value addition. Or when it happens, I tried to troubleshoot and did a quick research on this. These are the three things I found. Now that becomes more valuable than going up with, the expire of the mountain, sir. This is the problem. It means that you have to take ownership at some level, at your level, even as you work towards escalating it. That's what it means. So you come with solutions and not complaints. Your solutions might not be the right ones. That's not the objective in any case. The objective is that you took ownership and dared to at least explore what solutions could look like. Meaning that you cared ab initio about solving the problem rather than complaining about the problem. In fact, for a lot of people, whenever there's a problem, it gives them the license they've been waiting for to complain. When you hear someone use the expression, it's not me, it's not my fault. I have one here that currently works with us. Every little thing is not me. Every little thing. So one of the ways we manage her is to seclude her role from where major things happen. And it's only a matter of time. As the younger ones grow, and they are growing within the ecosystem, matching what she's able to do, and some are beginning to do it better, it's only a matter of time. By that attitude, she's already on her way to irrelevance. Because it's not me. The very first to verbally and vehemently put up a defense. Put up immediately. You can almost predict, script it. But this has happened. Watch what she's going to say. It's not me. Sir, it's not me. Sir, it's not my fault. Instantly. But you see, how is that different? What should someone with a sense of initiative be saying in that kind of a situation? The language should be more of, this is the situation, what can we do? I have checked on this, I have checked on that. That shows a bit more of progress. There's a system failure, so I had to hop on the other system to quickly deliver on this project. That's someone who's progressive, progress-minded. It was not my shifts. That's also another very delicate one. When people work in shifts, oh no, I was not the one on duty then, sir. But you are here now. We have a problem. And almost quickly, you pass the buck. People with initiative are always ready to take ownership, real time. Because the goal is progress, is solution. We are here, we are here. We can deal with the issue of who was there when it happened later on. But let's make some progress. Let's create the outcome. That's how it works. So these are some of the practical expressions of what initiative imperative looks like. In people, in any environment, in any space. And it's very important that you know this so that when you deal with your friends, with your colleagues, with those you relate with in one way or another, you can spare yourself or reduce potential negative influence from lack of initiative. And the principle is very clear as far as the initiative imperative is concerned. If you see it, you own it. The principle of ownership. If you see it, you own it. It's yours. Sometimes, and I was quite amazed at the sacrifice that some of the young witnesses have had to make, given that you had to wait and wait endlessly when others didn't show up, and they saw the situation. And some said, you know what, I'll take a break and take a rest. I can't afford to leave this place or leave this project at such risk. They took ownership. That's how initiative works. They didn't say, well, I've done my own, it's time to leave, but they went over and above the call of duty. And that's why we must commend them for that attitude. There's many of them that have had to step up to do that. The next thing I want us to look at under the initiative imperative is the concept and value of independent thinking. Independent thinking. And this is the real test of the initiative imperative. Independent thinking. I think about 5 or 6 months ago when we received some young corps members, I had a meeting with them, about 7 or 8 of them, And the first thing I told them was that, look, my principle in this environment when people come here to intern, to serve, to work, is first things first. I want to see a thinking human being. I want to see a thinking human being. If we can resolve that and agree and make it our philosophy, our modus operandi, you will learn quickly, you will grow to great heights, and you will be very productive with less hassles and crises. A thinking human being. Most of the problems we have, by way of the apathy we've mentioned, the group, the apathetic and the sympathetics, when you look at those two categories, you will find that it is a combined demographic of people without thinking, without serious, significant, critical thinking, the use of the human capability of thought. A lot of what you see come out from the apathetics and the sympathetics is emotional, it's reactionary, it's fait accompli, as if consigned to that outcome. So, the real test is independent thinking, wherever you find yourself. So, we must start learning to stop waiting every time for step-by-step instructions. Can you imagine? You have been assigned a task, and there are 5 steps to the completion of the task. And then you have to resort to being given step-by-step instruction. How long do you think it will take you to finish that task? Forever. Step-by-step instruction. You finish this part of it, you go, you show up, sir, I've already signed off on this. I was waiting for you to tell me, what do I do next? Okay, next. And then we have to handhold you. That's not initiative. That makes you a very serious liability, a burden. It would mean that your supervisor, your boss, your reporting line will have no other business, other activity, other productive engagements, other than hand-holding you, babysitting you. That's what it will mean. When you turn your supervisor or your superiors to babysitters to babysit you, then you have a problem. So independent thinking implies that you stop waiting for step-by-step instruction. That is to say that you have to figure things out. You have to figure things out. You have to know enough, learn enough to figure things out. Now, I've said it very often here at the school that you're not too young to figure it out. When you begin to learn to figure things out, to address things on your own, you grow your capacity to initiate things. That's what happens. That means that you are working towards being explorative, and you find new means to solve problems. Independent thinking only grows through learning. Through learning. Learn on the job. Every time someone is taking you through the work, understand that you are being taught. It's an opportunity to learn. If you have to keep coming again and again and again on the same issue, it means you've learned nothing. It definitely means that at your personal level, your initiative quotient is very, very subliminal. That makes you a liability. The reason is that someone else higher than you has to carry you in addition to their own responsibility. The environment stinks psychologically where initiative is limited or absent. Nothing moves. You might find so many people in that space, but nothing moves. No judgment, no ability to decode, to link up matters, tasks, and ideas, until somebody comes in and stirs the waters. Nothing moves. There can be no growth in that space. There can be no progress. It's still there the same way it has always been. 3 months, 6 months. And yet people show up for work every day. Stagnation. Communities stagnate, businesses stagnate, initiatives stagnate, projects stagnate because of the same level of thinking extended over periods of time. People refusing to learn. People refusing to research. Interrogate the situation. Thankfully, there is technology, advanced technology, known as artificial intelligence. Yet, if you ask a lot of people how much of that technology they use on their devices compared to how much time they spend binging on social media, scrolling, you'll find that we still have very few researching individuals. It's down there on your mobile device. If you were to check your collection of apps on your device, what proportion will lean towards leveraging artificial intelligence so that you can research things across sectors? What proportion? Because if you're not the researching type, then your initiative quotient will be very low to inexistent. That's part of independent thinking. You must research. In addition to researching, your ability to ask questions. Gosh, I hate it when people are around, we don't ask questions. It gives the impression that everybody is in groupthink mode. And nothing is as dangerous as groupthink. It gives the feeling that you're surrounded by yes men. Ask questions intelligently. Ask questions. It could be as simple as, we've been doing it this way for so long. Does anyone have an idea of how we can do it differently to save us time? It could be as simple as that. Ask questions. Ask questions. Intelligently. Some people do not want to ask questions because they want to evade the potential or possible responsibility that could lead to the answer. And so there's the thinking and feeling that if we don't touch it, we are safe. There are times I joke with some of my staff and I say to them that you guys continue to scam me. How? There will be certain tasks I will assign, sometimes for days, and they will never bring them up. Until another 3 days, maybe a week after, during a meeting, I will suddenly remember, but I came up with this and I assigned it to this person. What happened? And then you see smiles on faces. That's why I call some of them scam artists. You're scamming me. Because I gave this to you, I told you to do this. But the idea was that let's not raise it. It's already 3 p.m. If we bring this thing up, we will not leave this place today. Then the next response is, oh, but sir, you are not available. Can you see we're going back to the apathetics and the sympathetics? We are given something to do, to explore. You did not follow through. You did not report back to close out on that task you're handling. No independent thinking. Again, wheelbarrow syndrome. Wheelbarrows everywhere. Wheelbarrows that will have to be pushed to make anything happen. We're human beings. We were created with capacity for thought, for reasoning. That's the capacity we have. We're not using our thought capacity as we ought to. Our mental makeup. Hence, the lack of significant initiative. And still under independent thinking, as a real test, is creativity. Creativity. Finding ingenious ways sometimes around problems. Resourcefulness in dealing with intractable situations, workarounds, because you're driven by the initiative imperative, rather than complain and say, oh, we don't have the resources. You're asking yourself, what other options can we explore? Getting creative and ensuring that there is a solution, no matter how short-term it might be, but it allows the engine of progress to keep on spinning. The initiative imperative has to be made visible. The visibility of initiative. People who initiate are often not silent. You will hear them speak during meetings. You will notice them by a raise of the hand. I have a contribution to make. Please, can I suggest? They are there. They are visible, they are present. Initiative must be seen and heard. They contribute at meetings. They prefer solutions. That's how you know them. They share ideas, they take risks. They convert that sympathetic concern into tangible pathways, recommendations, Why don't we do this? Can we explore that? Can we try this? Or this is what I'm thinking as alternatives. That is what they do. That is what they provide. Because they understand that if you do not speak, you disappear. Their contributions are well known, well documented, and evident in very significant ways and manners. Essentially, this conversation about initiative imperative is to awaken a paradigm shift in every individual listening to the sound of my voice. And it is a shift towards ownership. Ownership. And everyone bearing collective responsibility for that outcome. We're here today speaking, working towards a Guinness World Record for the longest public speaking marathon under the team category. The only way it can work in terms of all of the requirements, all of the rules of the attempt, is for every one of us in this room, including those on the WhatsApp group, those currently resting, is by way of the ownership shift in mentality. And I'll be very impressed with most of the conversations I see on the WhatsApp platform or group. I see individuals taking on ownership. In fact, sometimes the dean, yours truly, have been relegated to the background. That's the beauty of it. And that's where my confidence lies. I've seen the signs of initiative imperative. Sometimes we're in a near crisis situation. I'll be in my office and I'm not flustered because I've seen enough of the kind of commitment, that orientation. That's what the initiative imperative is about. Somebody is seizing the initiative to say, no, we've got to fill out on this, or we've got to do this. Everybody is looking out for everything. That's the ownership shift. And you see, what people do not understand when it comes to this important value, which we must also all take back with us, especially where you work, because there's always this mentality, oh, I only work for such and such a company or in such and such a place, that's all. No. You don't work for. You actually are a stakeholder in that space. If you begin to carry on that mentality of we versus them, in the end, it affects you the most. Because it is your time, it is your life daily where you work. So you must conduct yourself, your activities, your actions with a sense of ownership. The biggest mistake that people make are thinking that they work for someone else. No, sir. No, ma. No. My young colleagues or my junior ones, I will put it that way, you are working on your life. That's what's happening every single day. You are working on your life through that organization. You are working on your life through that organization. That's what you're doing. You are working on your life through that organization. You are working on your life through that project, through that initiative. You are working on your life. Every minute you spend, every minute you invest, you are working on your life. So applying yourself is not a burden. Applying yourself is not you shortchanging yourself. It's not you shortchanging yourself. It's not you shortchanging yourself. In fact, you shortchange yourself when you disengage. I hear some young people use expressions such as, after what am I getting? After what is my gain? In fact, I have a staff who uses that every time. In fact, it is a mantra. After all, what is my gain? Any little thing. After all, what is my gain? What is your gain? You have been on that job for over 2 years. It has been a very important means of income and revenue for you and your family. Are you getting the picture I'm painting here? But they said, after all, what is my gain? It has supported you, your family. It has brought stability. Because I know that staff, when she applied for the job, the vacancies had all been filled up. I sat at that interview. We are taking all the people we needed for that role. And she left saddened because they had recommended her to come in for the interview. Because we told her, sorry, you're coming too late. All the roles have been filled. And then at the door, she walked out, she came back, and she said to the registrar, ma'am, please, I don't mind. Is it the amount? I don't mind. I can even accept 120,000, which was way below what we were even offering all the others. She needed it desperately. Desperately. I don't mind. As fate would have it, by the time the team was resuming, somebody did not resume. And that created an opening. Because we had made it clear, sorry, we don't have any space anymore. You came in late. And so we gave her that opportunity. It's going to 2 years now. So sometimes when I hear those expressions, I'm reminded of everyone in our ecosystem. In fact, the job currently favors her the most because it's convenient in terms of location, in terms of transportation, and in terms of income. Convenience. In fact, the person gets an additional concession of closing 30 minutes before the rest of the team, which was an exception. But any little thing, the reaction is, after all, what is my gain? You see, the entitlement mentality that people carry is the biggest killer. It kills futures, it kills growth, it kills progress. And it is so dangerous. It is hampering so much of progress in organizations, in ecosystems, in businesses, even in governance, you name it, everywhere you go. Because people in spaces assume that the world owes them something. No, my friends. The world owes you nothing, because the world was here long before you. Nobody owes you anything. You are the one that owes it to yourself to be productive, to be meaningful, to be a contributor, and to, on the platform or the basis of that, grow, emerge, and advance. After all, what is my gain? And so when you have those kinds of mentality, we need to help people reposition, reframe, help them redirect, reshape that frame of reference. Very faulty because of that conditioning entitlement conditioning of the mind. Every opportunity, for instance, you have coming out here to speak, each time you speak, what is happening to you as a person? Can you tell me? Each time you speak, what is happening to you as a person? You are growing. You're strengthening your capacity, your skill, your fiber for communicating. Can anyone take that away from you? No. Just taking this simple exercise as an example. So it's very important to understand that no, you are not actually working for someone else. In everything you do, you are working on your own life through that platform. And as Jim Rohn will always put it, the great Jim Rohn, when someone was applying for a job, and in the course of that interaction, the person asked, "What am I getting?" And Jim Rohn said, "Correct that thinking. It's not about what am I getting, it's what am I becoming? What am I becoming?" So many of you are going to become far better after these 20 days in the area of communication. You will be able to walk into any interview, any job interview, and look at the interviewers with so much confidence and courage that when they ask you to begin to speak, they might be the ones asking you, okay, stop, we have heard, we have seen. You strengthen one more pillar of your skills, which is communication, and it's one of the most in-demand capability. Some of you will use this capability to grow your own businesses, to sell yourselves. It's about what you're becoming. More than anything else. Even when you work, any organization you work for, you get paid essentially in two ways. One is your salary or your income, your compensation, monetary, and other benefits. The second one is through experience, the experience and the exposure that you get or gain. Can you quantify the second one? You cannot. And that's why the principle has always been for young people, as soon as you finish your education, just get a job somewhere. Get a job somewhere quickly. Don't just sit back and say, oh, this is what they're offering me. It's too small. Doesn't work for me. The place is too far. You make a very big mistake. Get productively engaged. Get something. Start from somewhere. But my pay cannot take me home. It's not going to be enough for me to buy this, that, or the other. That's not what you need at that initial stage. The experience, the exposure, the enlightenment you gain becomes part of equity on your CV. That's what people look out for. When I'm employing, I go straight to employment history. I don't even look at the academic qualifications. Not in Nigeria. Academic qualifications don't do jack in this economy. Because the goal really for most people academically is just to get that degree, do your youth service, and get a foot in the door. Thank you. That's the goal for most academic qualifications. Most of the other areas will come through competency development. What we learn while working. Well, I guess you guys will have to switch on this air conditioner. Please switch it on. The rate at which I'm sweating, switch both on. Thank you very much. Because once I'm done, if you want to switch them back off, that will be fine. So let's look practically, functionally. What are the levels of the initiative imperative within the performance environment? I will likely speak on performance, hopefully during my next session. Please remind me that that's my topic. I should have spoken on performance first before dealing with the initiative imperative, because the initiative imperative is designed to fit into the performance environment. All of this coming from my work, The Challenge to Perform. I encourage you, you can get that book. I'm sure it's on Amazon now. I asked Kelly to put it on Amazon. You can actually get it. It carries over 200 pages of the body of work I've done helping organizations and individuals to perform. And that's why it's called The Challenge to Perform. Everything we're looking out for is performance in the final analysis. So there are levels to the initiative imperative. There are levels. And all of this is situated within the performance ladder. So let's just imagine a ladder leaned against the wall. And what do we typically do with ladders? Who can help me out here? We climb, absolutely. And we climb to various heights. And when you look at a ladder, you notice that a ladder has rungs, meaning levels. You will find yourself at a certain level at a given period of time. So I want to walk you through this progression so that you can locate yourself. At this very moment, understand what it means for you presently and what it implies potentially going forward. Whether you remain stuck on a given certain rung of the ladder or whether you climb onwards and upwards. This is how people's lives, and careers grow or advance or retrogress, depending. Is this understanding of the progression that gives us a full picture and then serves as motivation to say, look, this is where I am as far as this ladder is concerned. I'm on this rung, however, I want to make it to the top of my field. Therefore, I must be driven by performance. First rung of the ladder, where you wait for instructions. How many of you are at that level in your life? Waiting for instructions. No initiative. Even personally, some of us are still waiting for instructions from our parents to go and get a job. We are still waiting. How will I get it? Mommy, how will I get it? You are a graduate. You have done your NYSC. You are still waiting like a wheelbarrow to be pushed. How many of us know the TV, the cable channel called CNN? You know CNN? Who's the owner of CNN? Who can tell me? Who knows? Ted Turner. A man by the name Ted Turner. So back in the 90s, yes, I remember very well. I'm trying to locate. No, not in the 90s. I think I was quite young. I was still in secondary school then. 88, 89. Whenever I came home from boarding school, my secondary school was at Federal Government College, Ikotepen. I spent 6 years there. But that was after I'd done 1 year secondary school here in Lagos at a school called Kadara Grammar School in Ebutemeta. But my father insisted that I had to go to a Federal Government College. I wasn't too happy because I felt, I've done JS1, why am I going to go back to another school? My father said, you're going whether you like it or not. But I look back to that decision and I'm very thankful for that, because then unity schools were still very good in terms of the quality of education and the fact that it was boarding, the relationship, the networks, and all of that. It gave me a very different outlook on life. And whenever I came back on holidays, my father used to have this collection of weekend Concord newspapers. I'm not sure some of you heard of Concord newspapers. Concord is one of the leading newspapers at the time. It was founded by the late M.Q. Abiola. And this weekend Concord was so special because the center spread, there was always a biography of a great person, a Nigerian or an international citizen. And I remember reading the story about Ted Turner. CNN had just been established during that period, and it was making waves. In fact, it was CNN that redefined news reporting. From reporting news that had happened to reporting news as it is happening. CNN redefined the landscape of news reporting. And I can remember very well as I read the biography of the founder of CNN, Ted Turner, when he said that was what he wanted to do. And the first live event they covered was an NBA game. And you know Americans, they don't joke with their basketball. And as they went live, the network collapsed. Can you imagine? Your first attempt, the network collapsed. And so they stopped, they changed the name CNN, they changed the meaning of the name CNN, which meant Cable News Network. Back then in America, they began to refer to it as Chicken Noodle Network because the network collapsed. But here we are. CNN has become a metaphor for all sorts. When someone comes with news, you label the person CNN. CNN has come again with the latest news. So to truly buttress this idea of taking more responsibility, because we want to deal with the issue of entitlement. I was talking about where you should do things, take actions, you're still waiting for instructions. You're waiting for your parents to instruct you to get a job. Ted Turner said his father so much built initiative into their thinking that one, during the holidays, they were forced to pay rent to him. Because his father was of the view that you are now on holidays, you are not in school. You cannot live rent-free under my roof. And nobody told them to go to the nearest McDonald's to learn how to flip burgers, to have something. Can you imagine? Some of you, if your parents asked you to parents during holidays, what would be your response? Mommy, Daddy, why should I do that now? Are you not my parents? So, wrong one of the ladder, waiting for instructions. Still waiting. At 20, at 25, you are still waiting for instructions to take that particular job. You don't need anyone to tell you. Take that job, start from there. And stop being fooled with this mentality that I have my own standard. Let me tell you, when you are on the first rung of the ladder of the initiative imperative, you have no standards. In fact, you have no basis for these standards. You are just starting to climb. You better grab whatever is available to commence your journey. I see young people turn down any employment opportunities because they feel that they are something where you are nothing. At that level, you are a nobody. And you hear people say that I'm not that desperate. That's bad news. Then you're not ready to excel in life. That's the level you should be most desperate and most dangerous. Hungry to succeed. I know what I want. I know my level. No. You don't have any level. He that is down needs fear no fall. Once you are on the first rung of the ladder, let your primary objective be to lift off, to take off. So in terms of this progression, you have waiting for instructions. Now, that's not the best, but get involved nonetheless. Now, you get to a point where you can't keep waiting for instructions. If you truly want to grow, you begin to ask for them. Because a waiter just waits. But I've found that the waiters that get the best tips are not the ones that just wait. After they serve, they wait. They watch, they observe, and they try to put two and two together. You find at some of these fancy restaurants, a good waiter that wants to amass tips shows up. So I hope you enjoy your meal. Would you like a bottle of water as well? They graduated that art by adding some value to it. See, that's the initiative imperative working in that waiter. There is no way you will not feel satisfied, feel at home, that the waiter was not just there every time the waiter come and all that, but you had someone checking on you while you enjoyed your meal, preempting what your next need might be at that table. Would you like me to get you a glass of water? Is everything okay? Is there anything else you might like me to get for you? It's a simple response, yes or no. Oh, please, could you give me some additional salt? Could you give me this? That's because that waiter did not just compartmentalize their understanding of their roles to taking the plate and serving. They've gone out of their own way to understand a little bit more about the interaction of the meals and the guests. So they have this anticipatory disposition, and that enables them to engage a bit more closely. They treat their customers. They don't just see themselves as a hired hand to drop the plate of food and then move away and clear the plate after the meal is done. They see every person at the table eating as their guests. In other words, the waiters, good waiters, take ownership. They don't say, what's my gain? After all, I'm not the owner of the hotel. No. They assume ownership. As long as I am in this dining section and people are here having their meals, I own the experience. I owe it to everyone dining at this moment in time to have a pleasant experience, to have a sumptuous experience with their meals. That's what I owe it to them. So they go out of their way. So level 2, you ask for instructions. Rather than wait at the wheelbarrow, you take an interest, greater interest in your work. Sir, is there anything I can do? Oma, I've just come in and I've gone through the emails. I've responded to them. I just wanted to check to see if there are other things you might want me to take or to get ahead of. You are asking for instructions. Or like before, you just come in and sit at your desk, waiting like a wheelbarrow to be pushed, to be told what to do. When you have many of such persons in an organization, it's a big problem. It becomes a drag. But when you begin to peel away, or peel some people away from that class, whereby they show up, they don't just sit down waiting to be told what to do, they go out of their way to trigger even their superiors to give them work to do. then you have moved from the first rung and placed your foot on the next rung. Ask for instructions. You might spend some time there, a few months, a few years, constantly asking, not waiting to be given instructions. As you grow, you will understand the business the more. You will understand the roles the more. And because you're asking for instructions, it will broaden your horizon to learn more, to see more, to experience more. It will broaden your horizon. It will expand your thinking. You will absorb more in terms of knowledge and insights. Growth of the human being, growth in the consciousness, growth in capacity, in competence is what you will begin to experience. And with that growth, you will find yourself gradually stepping into a position. And this is the third rung of the ladder, where once in a while, you might be able to make or recommend actions, make recommendations. Why? Because with that growth, there's confidence. You have seen much more. Because you lifted yourself out of wheelbarrow territory, sitting down and waiting for instructions, into constantly self-starting, being a self-starter, igniting the dynamic engine within you by asking for instructions. You've grown to a point where you've learned a few things, and once in a while, the confidence to make a recommendation surfaces. That confidence is not like an anointing that comes upon you. It's something you grow into. You're now making recommendations. During meetings, you're making contributions, suggestions. You've left your colleagues that you graduated the same time with and entered the organization the same time with. You can start together at the same time, but it doesn't mean that the journey will proceed at the same pace. The journey will always be uneven. Now you're at level 3. Gradually making contributions here and there. And that's growth. That's how you grow in terms of your use of your initiative. The initiative imperative. With time, as you continue to make recommendations, as you continue to have an opinion, as you continue to contribute thoughts and substance into that ecosystem, into that workspace, gradually you'll find that you move yourself to level 4, the fourth rung. And at that fourth rung is where you become empowered to begin to take action. That's leadership. Leadership starts. You begin to see that you can provide a sense of direction to things. You can take action. So, your muscles for action taking begin to form. Your limbs begin to take shape. Your leadership limbs begin to take shape. That's what's happening at level 4, where you can act and then report immediately. Because at that level, you become a trusted player, not just a passive observer, a trusted player. You can be given things to do. And as you do them, you're reporting. Oh yes, I've just returned, this is what I saw, this is what I found, and you're acting and reporting. And that's leadership territory. For some of you, within 5 years, sometimes 3 years, depending on how you apply your initiative imperative, and you apply the force of the initiative imperative to your life, some of you can become managers 3 years into your time. at that organization. It's a choice. So you act and report immediately, and as you grow in that, level 5, the 5th rung is, you know what, you are becoming more of an authority. You don't have to keep reporting immediately. You report as necessary, routinely, rather than reporting on whatever you're doing daily. It could become weekly, it could become monthly, because you are now a trusted player, a trusted party in that space. That's what has happened. That's at the 5th rung. And as you continue to grow, remember, the fuel of the initiative imperative never dies. The more of your initiative you use, the more of your initiative you want to use. Because you have become an energetic. Energetics do not switch off. They don't become docile. While you're doing that, what is happening to your sympathetic and apathetic colleagues? Where are they on the rung of the ladder? Where are they on the rung of the ladder? I want a response. First floor, ground floor. You've hit the 4th rung, the 5th rung. That's right here. And they are still, you find that they will still be sniping. That there is what? Partiality. There is preferential treatment. There is nepotism. At the 1st rung, they are still there as wheelbarrows, doing wheelbarrow things. The rumor mills of the organization, they are the president of rumor millers. And so tomorrow, if they find that you have to supervise their work, they come with an entitlement mentality. After all, we came in here together at the same time. We were classmates. The journey, the climb up the ladder of the initiative imperative is not even. It's not even. You choose how to deploy your sense of initiative until you get to the 6th rung of that ladder, where your judgment has become so trusted, you can truly now assume full leadership. You can act without reporting. And the goal is to get to that level 6. I used to have an executive assistant that was on the verge of getting to this level. There are just so many things. When she came in at level 1, I was away when she resumed. So I said, work with the registrar. Whatever she tells you to do, learn. I was away for a month. When I returned, I could see that fire, that hunger. When you see it, you will know those traces we talked about, the willingness to go overboard, to work even beyond your job description at that initial phase of your life, knowing that you will get to a point where you will not need to go beyond your job description. You will even be the one to determine your job description. Some of you are trying to determine your job description at a level where you have no stake in the game. At a level where you can't choose. Well, at a level where beggars can't be choosers. NYC core members, I used to have one. We had to actually just send her away after a few months. This is not my job description. What's the meaning of that? We assign you a task. You're serving here. It's like an intern. Do interns have job description? Do interns have job description? You don't. The only job description is internship. A privilege to gain what? Exposure. and experience. That's your job description. And an intern will come and say, that's not my job description. That is classic entitlement mentality. And God help you that you are not doing that with someone like me, because I will knock it into your thinking. Classic entitlement mentality. As we say, who dash monkey banana? It's a job description. I know my job. This is my job description. Your job description is to do whatever it takes to be on the lookout to ensure that nothing goes wrong, everything succeeds, and then reporting the dangers around. Your job description is to be on the lookout once you are at that level of takeoff. The job description. I've seen quite a lot in my few years of working with people and trying to build systems. So I was talking about this particular that I've worked as the executive assistant, and for every month as she grew, she evolved within a year to a level of so much trust. Everything about my program, my schedule, she was the only person that could handle it. So when she was leaving, it was a task to hand over because there was so much. You know why? Because she showed the traits of initiative imperative. Sir, just give me this task, explain it to me. I will take it and run with it. And I've always said to everyone that comes here to work that, look, make mistakes. I will forgive your mistakes if you are using your initiatives, because that's growth. The worst mistakes are the ones that come from apathy, switching off, not staying engaged, not driving yourself. But on the go, if you are that type on the go, you will make mistakes. There's no system where there will not be mistakes, but those mistakes will serve as learning points. Something is seriously wrong with your capacity for initiative if your boss or your immediate lead keeps talking to you. If they are doing a lot of talking and it's so frequent about what you're supposed to be doing, then you are a wheelbarrow. Let me be clear. You are a wheelbarrow. Always waiting to be pushed. And you should be sick and tired that every time you are being talked to, first time, second time, third time, your brain should switch fully into the mode of action, self-direction and leadership. Okay, I understand what's expected. You shouldn't feel embarrassed and humiliated. That okay, they come again to give me this same instruction. Sometimes they give you the instruction, and as they are leaving, they are repeating it. I repeat. I hope you understood what I've said. Just for emphasis. Because there is no trust. When that happens, just simply understand that my boss does not trust me. My boss does not trust that I have the wherewithal mentally with the sense of initiative to do this without supervision. And that's why you find somebody's boss is coming back, checking in on you as if you have become a daycare project. You know how it is, a daycare. What do? Every now and then you go and check. I hope my baby is still there. Have you given, has the baby had breakfast? Has the baby had lunch? So leaders have been turned to nannies because of the caliber of thinking, the void of the initiative imperative. So something is wrong if, in terms of your relationship where you work, you are constantly undergoing babysitting. And I hate to babysit people. Especially the young ones. Once you're in your 20s and you come here to work with me, I always remind all of you guys and then others that come to work, I said, look, There was a time in this country when your president was, what, 29, 30 years old, or the head of state. And they are, what, 24, 25, and they're forcing me to babysit you again and again and again. It's not a good use of my time. So you shouldn't be in this environment. We show you once, we tell you once, we expose you. I say, go out and do it. If you report with, oh, I didn't get this right, I made a mistake, and this is what happened, and it was in the course of the work, you can be forgiven. Because that's energy. That's an energetic, seeking to find a way. But when you remain apathetic and sympathetic, and we have to show up, it's like you are a case to be managed constantly. Then you don't belong in a space that is in an organization or a system that is progressive. Very important. So let's move on to what I call organizational problems, because we don't want to only blame individuals for lack of initiative or for the absence of the initiative imperative. Sometimes the ecosystem matters, and it could actually influence, it could even enable apathy or sympathy rather than enabling energy. There are systems like those. Now, many organizations or there are organizations, let me not say many here, because I'm not sure of the numbers, but I know that there are organizations that tend to operate on what I call a permanent red light mode. The red light is a stop sign. It's a stop. By virtue of the way those organizations are set up, modus operandi, and this section of my conversation is to challenge leaders within organizations to also check within themselves, check their own contribution, potentially, to a lack or general lack of initiative as an imperative within their spaces. Permanent red light mode have several indicators. For instance, delays. There are people, young people, or working people who are driven. They get on the ball, they get on the job, they apply themselves. But within the system, at the management levels, you find a culture of delays. They are waiting for the outcome of their input. It's taking so long because they want to, with the energy that they have, they want to eagerly move on to the next task and keep on growing. And that's why some people leave certain organizations, because of red lights such as this. They are driven, they apply themselves, and sometimes it takes far longer than necessary for their superiors to respond to them, to enable them, because there's so much energy. They're in that class of the very few. There's so much energy and they want to keep it going. And it seems for them that the system is suppressing them, is draining them of that impetus, because they already have the initiative imperative. It is not likely that such human beings can last long in red light organizations where delays in making certain tools available, delays in responding to inputs of task, delays that could stifle creativity and energy. Those delays can affect a lot of young people and upwardly mobile people psychologically. That's why you find some movements. So it's a balanced conversation. You want a system that enables growth, that gives you free room, free space, free reign. Not to be reckless. But as you do, you are guided. You err, you are corrected. And refined. And there's growth. And that enthusiasm, that engine inside of you, that ensures that you're a self-starter, continues to run. It continues to be serviced. It is oiled. So each day you're looking forward to something special because you belong to the class of the energetics. And you're in a space where you are allowed to thrive. So sometimes leadership can turn on that red light. Thank you. So sometimes leadership can turn on that red light. Bureaucracy is another red light. Oh my goodness. Bureaucracy has its uses. It is necessary in a certain context. For instance, in government, I worked in government for 3 years. And one of my first awakening, I wouldn't want to call it a rude awakening, or I'll call it my reality check, was that from the private sector, I had gotten in, working at the Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, and I started doing things because I only had one person to report to, which was the chief executive. I had to drive strategy, drive communication, so I had some latitude, some freedom to execute a number of things. But when it got into the spaces of other jurisdiction within the organization, that was when I understood what bureaucracy meant. I was effectively slowed down, and I had to learn how to navigate. I had to learn how to navigate bureaucracy effectively, fully. That I had to learn how to navigate. So, what is the point that I'm making here? Bureaucracy itself can be a challenge. Bureaucracy itself can be a challenge in terms of red light signaling. Frustrations, stagnation for some persons who desire that upward climb. Stagnation might not necessarily be in terms of lack of promotion. It could be that you've remained in one space, on one role for so long, and the solution at times to that is to redeploy you, move you to a different section, to explore other aspects of your skills and your capabilities so that you can keep that initiative imperative running, that engine running. That could just be it. Because most times people view stagnation strictly from the standpoint of, I have been on this level for 5 years, I have not been promoted. That's one side to it. But if you've been at level X in terms of the hierarchy or levels, administrative levels within the organization, but you have been moved into operations, you've done 3 years there, you understand operations, and then they move you to HR, you've gained exposure there, and you're finding that you're able to move around, circulate in such a way as to expand your capacity as a person. Trust me, that growth could favor you more than being promoted to the next level with more income, and then you're stuck. You must learn to weigh these things. But at the level of organizations, these are some of the challenges that we find existing. Red lights, and organizations must be willing to make the necessary commitments to become more of what I call green light organizations, which is you enable. I always love it when I parcel out a task, give an assignment, and I just tell, like, either this person could be a core member, and some of my core members here are doing far more serious work, far more heavy lifting for their levels. And I say, go and figure it out. If you don't know what to do, try using AI to guide you. AI is now your personal assistant. Figure it out, but don't come back to me with the same stories. The same way I assign something to you, then you show up 3 days later. All right, I wanted to see you. You had asked me to do this. You're repeating the same thing. Nothing has changed. Nothing has moved. Instantly, just call you a wheelbarrow. That's all you are. But if you were to come back to me and say, I've started, but I ran into this brick wall, and I think this is where you have to come in, throw your weight behind this, and speak to this person. I've called them, they're not responding, but I think that if you called from your line, they'll know it's you and they'll respond. Now you're talking. That's how you leverage. Because you are a go-getter, you want to see outcomes, you want to get the results. That's the right approach to it. So the goal is for organizations to become green light organizations, become enablers, create things that can enable, or systems that can enable young people and even other levels of professionals to explore their initiative quotients. I always like it. I just say straight up, I don't know. I learned that word from Tom Peters. I don't know. Every leader should be able to use it. What does it mean? It simply means that you're saying to a potential in front of you, I'm assigning you this to do. I trust in your capabilities. Go ahead and do it. I don't know how high you can fly, how far you can go. You can determine that. And that's how you breed stars. I don't know. And I'm always excited to say to my crew, I need you to do this, figure it out, and then come back to me. Figure it out. Come up with a template, whatever you want to do. That's how you green light, and not gaslight. I know you're familiar with gaslighting. That's how you green light the space for growth based on the initiative imperative, where people are empowered to act within the vision, within the mission, within the structure. That's what we need. Figure it out. Decode developments and try to interlink them and use it to carve out or map out a pathway. That's how we can address the problems of organizations that have red lights within their modus operandi. Next, I want to highlight four levels of responses as individuals as far as the initiative imperative is concerned. Or four different categories. I wouldn't want to call them levels so that we don't feel that we're moving from one level to the other. Four different categories. Category one are the people that act before being asked. Notice, category one, act before being asked. Don't let your boss beat you to it. Don't let your supervisor beat you to the punch. Before the person even comes up with a question, is here. See what I've done about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Act before being asked. You create value. These are the people that create value and they win big. Category one. Category two are those who act when told to do so. These are the average performers. When told to do it, that's when you do it. Then you are an averager. You are an averager. You are a mediocre contribution to the system. it becomes important because it has been raised with a sense of urgency. No, you must get to a point where you understand the dimensions of the work you're doing, knowing full well what is at stake, and then using that to drive yourself, to apply yourself. You must get to that point. Category 3. These ones, even after they've been told, they don't even act when they are told. They act late. Whatever they do, you know that once it's presented, it's like medicine after death, an afterthought. So when you hear the expression, we sure did it, at least let it be on record. Do not say that I didn't get it done. These ones, they act late. That is the third category. You run an organization, do everything possible to thin this type of herd, thin this kind of herd. Decongest your system. Get rid of them. No organization should run as a humanitarian agency. That's why we have the NGOs and the international agencies. If people want that type of rehabilitation, they should not get a job in a serious place, serious-minded place. They shouldn't. You shouldn't transform yourself into a displaced employee, being rehabilitated, being accommodated, being stomached. Let us just leave them. You become a drag and a drain to that organization. So these category 3 ones, they will act. These are the problem employees. Problem. They will act late. Long after they've been told. That is, we have finished the matter, we have concluded, we have moved on. And then they will now turn it into a news flash 3 weeks later. And they don't seem to see that they are reporting themselves their incompetencies. They take it as a badge of honor that they have finally submitted their assignments. Deadline means nothing to them. And then category 4, these ones, don't even allow them to come into your ecosystem. Once you notice any trait, if you can deduce it in their CV, and you know when it comes to CVs these days, everybody knows how to package it. You just give ChatGPT a prompt, write my CV for me. Present me as the most qualified candidate with a background in communication, business, administration, strategy, as one who has worked for a leading oil and gas company in the banking financial services sector. You just begin to, and it will give you. I will greatly encourage HR recruitment entities, if there is an app, real time, that you can take a CV, plug it into, apply it, ask it who wrote this CV. If it's a if it's an AI generated CV, before the person sits in front of you, you can knock them off that pedestal. So category 4, these ones simply refuse to act. They refuse to act. These ones are unemployable. Unemployable. And that's why I said do everything possible to avoid them, to evade them, to even prevent them from coming in the first instance. Now, what then is the cost of no initiative? What then is the cost where there is no initiative at all? Because we are discussing the initiative imperative. We are saying that the use of human initiative is an imperative. It's non-negotiable. It's sine qua non. At the individual level, personally, privately, in our lives, and then as part of meaningful contributions to whatever ecosystems of business, of social enterprise, of relationships, or associations that we're a part of. It makes us valuable when the initiative imperative runs how we think, how we do things. So what then is the cost when it is absent? Think about it this way: the cost of constantly wheeling a wheelbarrow, depending, of course, on the weight of the load it is bearing. Again and again, attention, navigating with it through spaces, weight, lifting it. I see that Abigail is just enjoying herself, distracting herself, and she needs this initiative imperative more than anybody else. The cost. The lift, the demand, the distraction. What then is the cost? Number one, without initiative, clearly, work doesn't get done. That's the truth. We can't get anything done. And that's why you find in certain contexts, most of the work is done by very few people. They do a lot of the heavy lifting. Why? That organization is running on the initiative imperative of the few that has been fused together, compounded. And rather than the remaining 70 or 80% to respect themselves and just maintain their lane of containment, you find some of them disparaging the ones doing the heavy lifting. And if the disparaging becomes too strong, if the disparaging becomes too long and hard, what happens? Gradually, we begin to peel off those from the endangered species, the endangered population, the endangered few who are showing the initiative. Because what you're doing, you're sowing the seeds of frustration. Frustrate those who have initiative imperative. And in no time, if this is allowed to hold, it brings down organizations. It does. That's why some people leave. Are frustrating me. People, I know the amount of work I put in. I make myself available real time. On weekends when no one will show up, I'm here because I don't want this task to crumble. I'm the first to come in, the last to leave. The last to come in are the first to leave. So when there is no initiative at all, work doesn't get done. And these things are very important because they must inform decision making, management, and what have you. I'm going to hold on. When I finish, you can do that. I don't want a distraction. I'll soon be done. Please, bear with me. I'll soon be off. Let me just finish this quickly. I know it's an exception. As the dean, I think I have the veto powers. I can see Favor smiling. Maybe she was really expecting to start eating her breakfast. Sorry. You just have to tell those worms in your system to be patient. Next is that response becomes very slow because initiative is not there. Response becomes very slow. From slow response, gradually opportunities die. Lack of initiative. No one, in fact, nothing opens the pathway to opportunities for growth in life than when you use your initiative. Make yourself available to provide self-directed leadership, to show that you understand your task and that you're willing to grow, take instructions, apply, execute, and then gradually, knowing that you no longer need instructions, nobody pushes you as a wheelbarrow, you show up, you know what to start doing immediately, and you're ahead of it even before your bosses. What it does is that opportunities will expand, but in the absence of that initiative, or that use of initiative, opportunities die and organizations stagnate. That's it. Things begin to atrophy. Everything begins to snarl in pace. That's what happens. And in today's world, if you begin to slow down in this manner, it's only a matter of time before you become irrelevant personally. Because nobody is going to reckon with you. The value that you embody, where is it? They'll ask. That's what's going to happen. So we need a culture shift. The use of initiative must become systemic. It must become part and parcel of how we think, how we run things, how we do things, how we execute. Everyone must understand when a problem comes, all brains begin to function. What do we do here? I remember my last place of employment, we had something similar as a problem. Can I place a call to someone to help us troubleshoot this situation? At least some effort would have been in place before it gets escalated to management. Most times people just escalate to raw problems to the top levels without even any attempts to grapple with the situation as raw as it happens, and no evidence of people having come together to reflect around it to say what are our options. And so the man at the top has to now do the thinking that should have emanated at the very bottom when the problem occurs. That's the problem. No initiative at all. How will that person at the top think strategically to drive the organization to compete with its peers when you force him daily to come down to factory level thinking? Because there is no whiff, not even the slightest breath of initiative in that space. Nobody asked when the machine collapsed, what do we do? It's not my fault too. You pack everything raw upstairs. That is that entire chain. No use of initiative. So we need the culture shift. Initiative has to become in every organization. Just like we're here now working on this Guinness World Record attempt, it has to become everybody's responsibility every day, everywhere. Every day, everywhere. After the World War II in Japan, the Japanese began to reshape, revamp their culture of how they could do things. And a few decades after World War II, we began to see that culture manifest in Toyota, the kind of cars that they produced, and some of their other very well-known brands. And this became so strong and was captured in one of their philosophy known as Kaizen, K-I-Z-E-N, Kaizen simply means find a way to improve the situation. You just continuous and never-ending improvement. That's just what it means. Meaning that whatever the situation you find yourself in, as part of this process, ask yourself, when a challenge presents itself, with the mentality of continuous and never-ending improvement, which is start by improving yourself, where most of us are familiar with the concept of self-improvement and what have you, can you apply that thinking to a given situation? And companies like Toyota began to enable what I call green light systems, green light policies. Remember, we are talking about red lights within the organizations and green lights. And that empowered more manifestation of the initiative imperative, to the extent that a shop floor operator, a factory floor operator in Toyota could, as let's say it was gears the machine was producing, or let's say it was windscreen, a particular machine was rolling out, and they noticed that a particular windscreen had a slight or almost invisible crack. You could not see it. You would have to see it. You could not see it with the naked eye. You have to use a device, a magnifier to spot it. That factory worker had the right to use their initiative to alert or even stop the production of that batch, so that it could be escalated and addressed. But that's initiative at the highest levels of what trust. Like it has become systemic, it has become culture, meaning that initiative imperative is everybody's business. We are all using our initiative. There is no sit down look or look man here. There is no sympathetic or apathetic in this place. We are all energetics. And so the organization itself had to match that with improved green lighting policies. Had to match that with improved green lighting policies to enable and support the initiative imperative. So it's so important that we institutionalize this thinking, that it drives how we run our system. What then is my final charge, so that those who are hungry can take their breakfast? What then is my final charge? It's time, at the level of individuals, personally, you've got to start getting rid of expressions such as "I wanted to." And I thought about it too. I wanted to. What class? What category would you classify that person into? And I thought about it. Sympathetic. Thank you very much. They are the most dangerous. They are, because they don't come outright to show you their true colors. They don't. I have thought about it. Sympathetics. And if you fall for it, your organization will crumble. Your team will fail that assignment. So even with regards to teams, small teams, project groups, you must watch out and avoid apathetics and sympathetics. I should have. I could have. It's not my fault. Okay, what class do the "it's not my fault" belong to? What category do we call them? Apathetics. I don't know and I don't care. I couldn't be bothered. It's not my fault. It's not me. Oh. It has to change more too. I did. We're on it. I'll get back to you in 2 hours. Or stand by for my email. You can begin to see the change in language, the change in vocabulary. So that whenever you are in doubt with regards to your work, what you don't freeze. No, you don't. Ask questions. Seek for clarifications. Because doing nothing, that's the real failure. That's the real descriptive. That's the real capture of lack of initiative, when we do nothing. Especially when we use the expression, see no evil, hear no evil. Say no evil, okay, say no evil is fine of it. Now, that expression has nothing at all to do with the context of work, but human nature, we found a way to import it. Well, maybe it's African nature, we found a way to import it. That's a moral construct, but we found a way to import it to be used as justification for unwillingness and incompetence, lack of commitment to the space and context of work. So the initiative imperative is about energy. And I want you to remember that the world belongs to the energetic. I never forget that statement by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The world belongs to the energetic. Those who step up to the plate and do. Not those who sit down wondering, and I thought about it too. And I thought about it. I believe in doing things. I do things. That's one of my cardinal philosophies in life. Doing things. Because I guess that's why a lot of people that work with me tend to get scared. They feel there's always something being manufactured in my head that needs expression. But they don't know that it's something designed to help them grow. And that's the way it should be. So please, stay clear of those who are apathetic. Stay clear of those who are sympathetic. Commit yourself to being energetic. Allow the initiative, imperative, everywhere you go, everything you're a part of. Ask yourself, am I using my initiative? My God-given initiative, the human capacity to think, to question, to interrogate, and to apply and to engage. Because the world truly belongs to the energetic. So at this point, thank you very much for your attention. Let me hand over. So thank you. We continue.
Wow. Good morning, everyone. That was a very powerful session. And of course, I belong to the set of the energetic. You know, we learned a lot of things from this session. Having to pick such topic and delivering it in a very masterful way, it's really very brilliant. You know, and I think it's only Dean that has capacity to do that. All right, so I remain Opeyemi Adesokan, and this morning I'll be speaking on multitasking. Multitasking, you know, the good and the bad aspects, and then the possible ways to get it combined. At every point in our life, we have had to multitask. In fact, to begin with, humans are naturally designed multitasking higher animals. Whether we like it or not, we have been in one or two situations where we have to multitask. And this is one of the ways we survive as humans. In fact, for every one of us in this room, we have different roles we perform as humans. For instance now, you could be a doer to your parents, you could be a teacher to some students, a member to a pastor in a congregation, a worker to an employer, a patient, to a doctor. So naturally, we are designed to multitask. Hardly do you see anybody who is just doing only one thing, at a time. Whether or not you like it, you still have to, do other things. Even those in reputable positions in society, we found out that they still multitask. For instance, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is still a father. Despite being the president who leads the country, he's still a father to some children. He's a husband to some wives and a grandfather to some, grandchildren. So whether we like it or not, we find ourselves multitasking, and this is part of human nature. However, we must understand how important multitasking can be, as well as how distracting or debilitating it can get. First of all, we have to look at the concept of multitasking. Multitasking is the ability to perform two or more tasks at the same time, or sometimes to switch rapidly between two or more tasks. And when we do this, sometimes our plan or our goal is to buy ourselves time. Even right here where we are, whether as speakers or as witness, we are multitasking. I could tell you that hardly would we let 30 minutes go by without finding ourselves doing another thing. Some of us are running businesses even while we are here. We are making calls. We are trying to put things in place. We are doing other things, settling bills, even right here. To tell you that multitasking is now a part and parcel of us as humans. But then, the point of this lecture or discussion today is to actually differentiate the different types of multitasking we do. And then, what are the ways multitasking could even be beneficial, as well as sometimes disastrous to us as humans. You could have the skill to do different things at the same time, and you do it perfectly. But if we are to go by the scale of truth, you sometimes find that when you put too much things, together at the same time, you find yourself faltering in one way or the other. There's an aphorism that says that you cannot put, it's a Yoruba, adage, you cannot put too many stones, in the fire at the same time. It's to tell you that sometimes when you do this, you could get the whole thing desalted. Are we following? Now, first of all, let us examine the various types of multitasking, and then you are going to look at which part of these types resonates with you. First one, we have simultaneous multitasking. Of course, when you hear the word simultaneous, I'm sure that many of us have our mind back to what we did in mathematics. That equation, simultaneous equation. And then you know how the equation goes simultaneously. When you simultaneously multitask, It means you are doing two things, at the same time, simultaneously. You are writing, and at the same time you are replying to chats. You are listening to a conversation, and at the same time you are on your phone. And sometimes you are even distracted and just yes, but your mind is not even there. Because you are trying to reply to a chat and you are still trying to get the information. So simultaneous multitasking. Doing two or more tasks at the same time. You will see sometimes one of the bad eating habits is that we are eating and at the same time we are on call. And what happens when we do that? You could even get the food run over you, but it's not really a good eating habit. But maybe because we feel like we cannot sacrifice that call, and you are eating and then you are talking. Hello, how are you doing? And you are just trying to get the food into you. We have learned that art of multitasking. Sometimes you see people driving and then picking calls. Most times when I'm in this situation, I tell the drivers, please don't put my life at a jeopardy. People don't talk because we sometimes consider that, okay, we are expertise that they can do it better. But these little things are the reasons some catastrophes happen. Sometimes they will use one hand like this and they will be using the other hand, because driving is supposed to be a concentrated activity. When you are on the road, even unexpected things can happen. A car can just decide to run ahead of you and then you need to press brake or some things. But we try to multitask. Another thing again that you even see in buses these days is that the person who is in front with the driver, sometimes we're engaging the driver in a talk. And as much as that could seem interesting, it is also multitasking and it could be dangerous. Because sometimes you see that the driver will be so absorbed in the talk to the extent that he might lose concentration of the driving. When I was going to camp, they told us that we should regale the driver with talking so that the driver will not slip off. Then I told them that when we are trying to prevent him from slipping off, I shouldn't take his eye away from the road. Because sometimes humans are expressive conversationalists. What do I mean by that? We are gestural conversationalists. When we are talking sometimes, we like to gesture, we like to look, we prioritize eye-to-eye communication because that is the way we feel that we are being understood. So psychologically, when you are having a conversation with somebody, you prefer when the person is looking into your eyes. It is what we see as a sign of what? Of attentiveness. Sometimes you looking at one person in this room can motivate you to speak on, even when others are not listening. But sometimes you lose your grip when people seem distracted, and at that moment, the energy drops, dwindles. So because of that, when the driver is driving and is trying to share his experience, you might see the driver looking at you 10 times and say, well, I know. He begins to lose focus with that driving because he wants to combine the task simultaneously. So we have to know that example of multitasking, simultaneous multitasking. Now, we also have what we call the task switching multitasking. The task switching multitasking. This is where you switch from one task to another. This is where you switch from one task to another. You are washing your clothes. You are not done. Then they restore the power supply. And you're like, because you don't have trust in them, it's okay. Before I finish washing my clothes, let me just go and hang some clothes. You are not done with that one. So sometimes we do that. We switch tasks. That is another type of multitasking. You are here today doing this. In an hour's time, you find yourself doing something else, even when you are not done with that. Also, we have the background multitasking. The background multitasking. What do we mean by background multitasking? This background multitasking is when you are doing one task one task is obvious, the other one is not obvious, but it is still part of multitasking. For instance, like you say, okay, I want to download the file on my phone. Maybe the file will take like 30 minutes or thereabout. So you leave the file downloading and you're doing something else. It is still multitasking because your mind will still be on the task that is not yet, complete. And then while you are trying to do other things on your phone, you find yourself going back to also look at the file that you are downloading. So we call that background, tasking or multitasking. Sometimes we put people to do something for us one place and then we are attending to other persons too. And then we are going back to check, is it going fine? We are doing background multitasking. Also, we have what we call complementary multitasking. Complementary multitasking. What do we mean by complementary multitasking? This is a kind of multitasking whereby we could pattern them together, because at that moment, at that instance, it is necessary. And then it does not stress us out of our comfort zone. For instance, sometimes we are in the gym and you are listening to talk. And in that moment of listening to talk, that talk is even gingering you, for your gym activities. You see, sometimes people are listening to music while they are running, and it works because it's like listening to that music as a way of even slowing, preventing them from paying attention to their pacing, to their breath and stuff. So that kind of multitasking is complementary, because in that instance, you could do both together. You listening to a song or a talk does not prevent you from stretching your hand. So that goes hand in glove. Another one again we have is non-productive multitasking. Non-productive multitasking. This is when you are doing one task and the other task is not useful. You are doing one task and the other task is not useful. Maybe for instance now, you are speaking and at the same time you are trying to listen to something. You will not be productive because there is no way you can be speaking, and then at the same time you are trying to listen to something at a long stretch, unless it is that you are speaking on the podium and trying to ask people questions and listen to them. But speaking and trying to listen to music at the same time will not be productive because in the end you are going to lose sight of the two tasks. And the last multitasking type I have here, before moving on to the advantages, is the digital multitasking. This is common these days. Digital multitasking. I'm telling you that on some people's phone, they could open 15 tabs. Felicia could bear witness. They could open 15 tasks. They are here searching, this topic. They are there trying to, chat with somebody. They are there trying to build this thing. It's just like you are researching for an exam. I don't know, when you see researcher researching for an exam or something, you see them, looking at different sites, open this one, open this page, you want to combine everything. Digital multitasking. So we are trying to do 5 things together on our screen. We are trying to get 5 pieces of information together on our screen. So we have looked at the different types of multitasking. Now, let us go into the main. The nitty-gritty, the in-totals. And here we are going to look at the advantages of multitasking. I've established the fact that as humans, we are multitasking higher animals. Therefore, for us to still be engaged in this phenomenon, there must have been a series of advantages gotten from it. What are the advantages? Number 1, multitasking can increase productivity. There's this popular quote, I think by Tom Shelby or something, I've forgotten his name. He said, "There's no rest for me in this world, probably in the next." And you realize that hardly do we even rest in this world. As you are done with one task, another task will come up. I used to believe in something until recent. They will say that do all you have to do now because of your old age, so that you can rest during your old age. I understand that the level of work might drop when we get older, but you find out that there will be another thing that will be your bone of contention. It will be your children. You trying to get your children's attention. That will be another task entirely. It doesn't have to do with maybe you working in an office. There's no rest for us in this world. Probably in the next. So it increases productivity. So people have mastered the art of multitasking, that they could do different things at the same time. While I am in this speaking challenge, I'm telling you that just yesterday night and this thing, I have made some money to myself writing. Because while I'm even planning to prepare my speech, I was doing some little writing, because I realized that one should not disturb another. You could be in a challenge and still, be doing your thing. I have tutorial I will be taking online today, even though I'm here, because I know that I cannot sacrifice any, I have to do this speaking properly. I have to be here, but at the same time, tutorial is necessary because student life are at stake. Not that exactly, no money. That is, the Ulysses shocks me, but that is the truth. So productivity, even why we are here, there are some persons that they are running some offices job here. They are communicating with persons and they are being productive. Some persons are gathering ideas that to form, maybe they want to write books, maybe they want to do some other things. They are gathering ideas here. So they are part of the audience listening, and at the same time they are jotting things. They are multitasking in a productive way. So multitasking can be advantageous in this regard. There are times that I am going on a journey and I hold a book, and then as the bus is traveling, even all of the bombs, the potholes, while they are dangling us to and fro, I'm still reading. I've done a complete assignment even on a bus, because you realize that every minute counts, and you cannot let it go. You realize that that is why sometimes you as a person, the greatest weapon you can have might be time management. You realize that every time matters, and when you realize that every time matters, you prioritize, and then you try to see what you can do, within every time frame to get things sorted out. So multitasking increase productivity, no doubt. We are speakers here, but at the same time something is going through in, because we know that if we do not do that at this time, when the person speaking is done speaking, there might be a necessity for another person to come in. So what time do we have left? So we multitask. But the difference here is that, I like to clarify my concepts. Multitasking in this regard is advantageous and is organized. You cannot, for instance, now come to this podium and then while you are speaking, there's a handful of food, you are eating, you're like, okay, so multitasking. That is not multitasking. That is something entirely, different that we cannot even conceptualize, because you are not doing it in the right way. Another advantage of multitasking is it ensures better time management. If we have to do every activity, specifying it out just every day, I'm telling you, we are going to lose grip of our time. Imagine saying that for the whole of today, what I just want to do is eating. Then tomorrow, what I just want to do is chatting. We will find ourselves, wrongly, extremely misusing our time. So it enables us to manage our time really well. Multitasking is advantageous in that regard. You could do 3 things at the same time, and you could master even the art of doing it well. 3 things at the same time, and you master the art of doing it well. When I was in school, sometimes we'll be having our exams. And then we'll be having other activities. And I'll be preparing for the other activities the same time I will be preparing for my exams. And in the end, I will be able to combine both and still do well. Because I know that if I were to spend all the time preparing for my exams, I might not be able to achieve, other end result in terms of other activities. And let me tell you something. Do you know that as a student, you might have like 9 courses you want to do in a semester? And maybe perhaps during the exam time, you have a course to take, you have 2 courses to take. Probably, maybe let's say today, you are reading today and you have 2 courses to take tomorrow. Then, because you feel like you want to be extremely, productive and you want to achieve maximum knowledge in one of the courses, you now spend the entire hour reading the course and the other one is neglected. And then at the 9 minutes, you didn't manage your time, you want to read the other one. In the end, you will find out that if you have an A in the course and you have an F in the course, it's going to drag your CGPA down. But time management means that you can effectively manage the 2 courses at the same time. Maybe it's okay, let me spend 2 hours with this, 2 hours with that. And you could find out in the end, you could have an A in one or a B in the other, even while you are managing both times. The problem we have with multitasking is inability to manage our time. So we get overwhelmed and then we begin to malfunction. But do you know that even the human brain has been proved scientifically that we can even accommodate a lot more than computers? In fact, rarely do we even use half of the capacity of our brain before we die. We are too much. But most times, because we limit ourselves trying to play safe around our tasks and stuff, we do not really get to achieve a lot of things. But if we know the capacity of our brain as humans, we even have the ability to retain a lot of things. Do you know why? There are some experiences that have happened to you so many years ago. And then you have not even thought about these experiences of recent, but something just triggered them. And then all of a sudden you find yourself remembering. What enables you to do that is because of the capacity of your brain as humans. So imagine that capacity, you are using it to multitask. You can function well. But you need to know the do's and the do-nots of this concept. Another one again is multitasking encourages adaptability. What do we mean by the concept of adaptability? Adaptability is the ability to adjust, to adjust, to survive, especially in an environment you have not been accustomed to. And adaptability is a 21st century skill. And through you being able to multitask, you don't know what you are doing sometimes when you are doing different activities. You are building yourself. Because there are sometimes you will find yourself in some environments where you have to adapt. And the learnings you have had from the different multitaskings you've done make it easy for you to adapt. I was giving an example with the dean. If we are to, limit him to his role as the dean, probably we just have to see him here at the beginning of the whole session, and then we'll just address, okay, I'm starting this challenge, and then, we don't have to see him again. But I'm telling you that even the dean has had to go beyond the role of deanship alone. I'm telling you, there are times that he has done the calculations here. There are times that he has addressed people outside. There are times that he has had to even speak on the roles that are not his. Even some of those people at the counter out there, we see them even doing other things. Sometimes filling in for speakers, sometimes filling in for, for other roles. Why? The art of multitasking. And you need not even be asked. You just have to find yourself doing it, because naturally we have that ability. But we have got to build it through concepts like adaptability. Can you adjust yourself? There are sometimes that there will be a massive loophole in your place of work. Maybe an employer leaves, and then your boss will say, please, can you just fill in for this person? I need you to take this role for like 2 months before I come in. And then you find yourself doing it. What skill enables you to do this? The ability to multitask. Favor, the register is no longer here. Can you fill in for the register? And you say, yes, I will do it. Your ability to do it as a result of what? Of being able to multitask. So it is advantageous in the sense that it enhances adaptability, and you have adapted. In other situations that come up where you have to function as a register, you thrive because you have gotten that through your ability to multitask. And even normally, we could even look at the concept of even the speeches we are given here. Everybody has their own field of study. You have areas you can thrive in. There are topics that some of us have spoken on here that we have never imagined that we could speak on them so dexterously. But you got here and you find yourself, even as an English enthusiast, you are talking about biology, you are into politics, you are discussing water, nutrient, earth, security. You have been able to what? Adapt. Thanks to the multitasking element we have in us. Again, multitasking also is a skill. It helps to develop skills. It is skill development, because it is not everybody that has that skill of combining different things together. I know persons that when you start giving them two tasks, they break down. I'm overwhelmed. I can't be doing this. This is too much for me. They become swollen. You go to some organizations, workers are not happy because they feel like they are multitasking, because they feel like they are breaking down. And everybody has had a shared portion of experience in terms of being overwhelmed. There was a time I was teaching in a school in Ogun State. I was getting 7,000 salary. I was satisfied. My eyes have not been exposed. And what happened when I was doing this call? The woman came and I was like, "Okay, you are a very good teacher, and I would like to make you head of the teachers, 7,000 naira with pride." I was the highest paid teacher. I'm telling you. 2017. Yeah. 2017. Those days they are millions, but it's not as bad as you think. I think 7,000 naira should be equivalent to maybe 50,000 naira now, and it's not so as bad as it might seem. Because yes.
7,000 naira.
Okay, 20,000 naira now. Okay, not so bad, but it was. I can't even dream of that anymore. But that time, I was quite satisfied. I was quite satisfied with it. But even if you look at the price of the money, it's not only the price of the money, it's also the conditions, of living. The conditions of living have actually been changed, because as at that time in 2017, things were quite cheaper, and even the standard of living was much more better. So what happened then? I was made the head of the school, the head of the teachers, and do you know what happened? I was teaching 4 different subjects to 4 different classes. I was teaching 4 different subjects to 4 different classes. So I was teaching basic 1 to basic 5, 4 subjects each. At that moment, what mattered was the ability to multitask. And it was really very quite stressful that period, but I pulled through. I was teaching basic science